I'm Juan.
I'm Felipe. And this is The Yarn. That could have gone better.
Prospect is a movie about a father and a daughter who embark on a great adventure to find the last amber gem, the one they just might break that pesky curse cast upon their hometown. And wouldn't you reckon, they meet plenty of friends who help along the way. It truly is a beautiful place. Oh,
Starring Sophie Thatcher, Pedro Pascal, Jay Duplass, Andre Arroyo, Sheila Vand, and Anwan Glover.
Okay.
So on. I see you took many notes there. Can you tell us what this movie is about?
I felt that the use of the father's, his sleeping aid and his morning aids, and other stuff in the movie was actually to show a generational leap between the daughter and the father. Whereas, I don't know what situation he was born into, but because do they say what year it is?
No, they don't say what year it is. But essentially, where they're at is just to establish what this movie is about, is they're orbiting a space station that's also orbiting a moon or planet, whatnot. It seems to be like a very outer rim, very backwater. It's essentially a western. This movie is, and this planet used to be where there was a bit of a Klondike rush, not for gold, but for what did they call it?
For Klondike bars.
Orale, some kind of like.
Yeah, I should have written that down. That would have been a good note.
Well, I have it. Orale.
Just put it up.
Anyways, the dad at one point in one of his earlier tours mentions that this area had a lot more people, and this is the final one before, and this is very important. You have 3 cycles, so essentially 3 days, we assume, for this planetary system.
Yeah.
To get back to the space station, because it's going to be its last trip out. And if they don't get on that, they're stuck there. It's not explicitly said. I mean, I can't exactly confirm, but it seems that both the directors, Zeke and Chris, were inspired perhaps by Alien. A lot of the aesthetics of the interior, it's very analog, very 80s style. Quick things to point out: this is their first feature film. They both directed it and they both wrote it. Met in university, and they did a whole bunch of, I guess, commercials and then several short films together. And this is the first film. So
it was a really good film,
right?
Like, honestly, it's for the budget. Like, I really liked how in that first setting, when they're in the pod still, like, you get the feeling that they're alone in the universe. You get the feeling that there is nothing outside of their pod, which is obviously not true. They're part of the space station, but it really gives you that feeling that, like, they're lost in space already.
Just very isolated. It's almost every man for themselves.
It kind of made me wonder, like, is that supposed to be the equivalent of an apartment?
No.
Is that like an apartment comp?
No, they're clearly she's not living a normal life.
Come on in, I'll give you the tour. Okay, this is the TV area. That over there is the breakfast nook. And over here is where you'll be living.
Clearly she's just moves with the whims of her father, who's looking out for a quick buck. Well, not a quick buck, but
he wants to make it all the way back to Central, which I imagine is like
it's just like
rich people live.
It's the inner core, the planet core.
the planet core.
It was a good plan. Could have all worked out.
But
it didn't.
Thank you for your help.
Right,
Some gel burned out. It made them land in the wrong spot.
And then when they're on their way to the Queen's lair, they stumble upon an old Klondike site, and the father takes out his kit and he finds a little sack. So then it basically, like, they're harvesting these almost like fungus, like eggs or whatnot, right? And they have to cut into them But you have to be very careful, right? Because if you cut in too deep and then their own acid gets into the inner core of the little sac,
it seemed like there was like
it
some
burns.
adrenal gland that would like burst with acid and destroy the
and you have to be
sac.
careful, right? But if you're careful and harvest it properly, you're able to reveal this crystal, which is the world seems to go crazy over. They don't explain what it does. We don't know if it's fuel. It's clearly something obviously like very valuable, but is it tangible or intangible?
I think yeah, they built a really cool, and I don't know, we honestly have done very little research into the movie. We've just searched it and
I don't
watched
think
it.
there's much to do though. Like it's a pretty simple film.
Well, the thing is, like, I think I'm not sure if there's more lore to the world they've built, because they're in a random planet. You would expect to see aliens. You actually don't see any animals. But the one thing I did notice, and they did it very deliberately, was that there was a little figurine of an alien. I think it was bluish and it was kind of like chunky, kind of like the Michelin Man. But like they showed an alien figurine. I'm not trying to say that it matters that there's aliens or not. I just thought it was cool that they threw in that maybe there's aliens and maybe there's not. They're kind of just leaving it to us.
Well, like why there's no animals? It's low budget, right? They don't have the budget to make a realistic, a good looking computer generated animal.
How rude!
So they probably just had like people around the perimeter shooing deers away.
Yeah,
right?
I
Shoot,
am
get out,
curious.
get out.
I am curious if
because of a deer, or I don't know where they were filming. It looked more jungle-like, but like say like a monkey came by, it ruins the shot because you're like,
it's cool because I remember
George got in the way again.
When they first start walking through the green, my first thought was like, man, that planet looks really cool. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, besides like the floating spores, or I thought it was seeds at first, like like the dandelion seeds.
The father and daughter, C and Damon, meet Ezra and Lurch,
or number 2,
who essentially try to rob Damon. Damon then suggests to them that he can lead them towards the Queen's lair, and all together they can get the spoils and then perhaps kill the mercenaries. Right? It's a very dog eat dog world kind of thing, right?
I mean, it is worth saying. I feel like we're jumping over it, and I mean, like the point of the story is it's a bit blatant and obvious, but it is. I guess it's still there. Like the first time that they're harvesting the gem is the first time we get to see how greed plays into this whole thing, right? I guess the second time, because the first time was them coming down with only 3 days left. The second time was them being like harvesting this, and then the daughter's like, this is probably enough. And then the dad's like, nope, we want 10 million, not 10,000. And then the third time we get to see how much greed is like really messed with all the adults, I should say, because C is the only kid, besides the boy, is when they meet Ezra and number 2. That it kind of feels like a robot too.
Yeah.
I don't think he is a robot.
What's up, dog?
Hey kid,
What?
I'm a computer. Stop all the downloading.
What happens next is they only capture Damon. They don't know C's around. C then follows them, and then at one point, when they're when they're not suspecting it, she ambushes them, and then both Damon and C take control of the situation. And at this point, Damon's greediness gets the better of him again. Damon tries to then go into Ezra's lockbox, where he's got his harvest. He warns them not to do it. And Damon dies. Right? Again, it's all caused by greed. I think they're all, and again, you pointed out nicely, the only one that doesn't have that pure greed yet is C. She's just still too young.
Yeah. It could be that it could be that she's too young, or it could be that it's just because she's from a whole completely different lifestyle than them. She wasn't alive during the rush. For her, it's just space. I like when you live in space that long, I imagine money is useful, but probably lower on the priority.
C runs away. She goes back to her pod, her broken down pod, and basically she doesn't know what to do. Ezra finds his way back towards the pod, gets shot in there while trying to get in by Z. Out of necessity, they have to work together. Harvest these crystals, and then hopefully be able to pay for their way up to the ship. I
feel
think it's been a cycle already. So
like
they're on
we're
their way.
glazing over a really good scene. I just really appreciated how number 2 had no lines, and yet somehow was still a character.
Yeah,
like he had his own little whatever. I guess it's different for each viewer, but like we assigned a personality to him.
Yeah. Like I was expecting him to he gets shot. I was expecting him to just stand up and be like, grrr.
Never give up.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah,
Come back from the dead.
Like when he finished off Damon in the middle of dying, in my head it's like, was that like a sacrifice or was that just revenge? Like I wasn't sure.
Ezra, when Damon's coughing.
When number 2 is getting shot. So he's been shot like 3 times now.
Yeah.
And his last act of life is to kill Damon. Damon doesn't get killed until like number 2's final blow.
Yeah. But Ezra does state at one point that number 2 was
More of a utility.
More of a utility. I think.
Similar to how Damon might have seen his own daughter.
Sir, I know this may finish me as an acting ensign, but
Shut up, Wesley.
Yes, actually, that's a good point.
And I just really enjoyed there's a lot of really good things in this movie, like when the father starts coughing, and then you're like, wait a minute, and then he just.
You win. Perfect.
I mean, to be fair, I think he knew that he was gone.
And that was one of
he
the
got shot. Like Ezra got shot by this big railgun thing,
Yeah.
right? Like they call it a railgun. So he's just I mean, you can look at it like he was mad, but he probably just spared his life. Because we find out Ezra's not a bad guy. I would argue that the father is more flawed than Ezra.
Well, yeah,
they're both flawed, but the father, Ezra, is a better father figure to Z.
Don't do drugs. Stay in school.
Luke wants to quit magic.
That's not happening.
And
agree,
one
yeah.
day they were together than the father ever seemed to be.
Even think back to the first story, to the first set where they're in the pod, so they're going to bed.
Yeah.
But when they're going to bed, and he tells her the story of where she was born, and on one hand, it's like a lukewarm story. It's not really heartwarming.
No.
And what I mean is he explains that they were on their last vacation before she was born, which really doesn't paint her birth in a good light. He's not like, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. He's like,
well, at least you get to choose yours. I'm stuck with mine.
yeah, we want one last burnout on this planet. We were gonna go crazy, and then you can't. And if you notice, and then they talk. She wants to go back to her home planet. I forgot the name, but I imagine pop it up right here. She wants to go back to where she grew up because she loved it. But he's like, he doesn't want to go back to the time when he had to raise his daughter. He wants to go to Central. He wants to forget about that life.
Yeah.
Go be rich.
Another activist, McGuire.
activist. Yes.
Eventually, in their travels, Ezra and C, they meet the locals, and they're highly religious.
Yeah, they're weird.
They're
Man.
weird, and
That music box performance is so awkward.
Okay, so to explain, right? They meet these locals. They follow one to their camp, right? So they go inside there to try to barter for some supplies, some more filters. So they go in their tent. They play that really creepy song, right? They present him all the goods and in a case, right? So Ezra opens the case and he finds a bunch of those crystals, those gems.
They need to breed.
They need to breed.
I mean, I think it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, but
I thought it was really
so creepy.
I really liked all the weird winding toys, not toys, but how you recharge that rifle they had was a little windy thing, and then the music was also a little there's this there's this human element to the technology that they have. Is you have this high tech, unlimited ammo rifle, but you gotta charge it. Yeah.
If you run out of ammo, you can have mine. You got enough? Absolutely. Infinite ammo.
Electromagnetic or
something. Maybe it was a little railgun. I don't know.
It shoots. It definitely shoots just I don't know.
like a spike or
the spike, because there's one point where you kind of they were shooting the gun and you could see it come out, and I think it's supposed to just be like a little spike.
I wonder what they never showed actual ammunition. Because
Budget.
the idea
Budget
is
comes
that
into play.
like I think the idea is that it's unlimited ammo, so I
Yes.
would assume it's not a spike. Why they didn't just
Show it
kill Ezra
at that point
when they wanted to take the girl? That was my thought. Was like, I mean, they didn't have guns. I guess they only had clubs. So what could they really do?
You know what? It's because
But they
I don't
outnumber
think.
them.
Yeah, but I don't think the religious people were necessarily evil. They were, I mean, messed up, right, in their ways.
They were weird.
But they don't seem to be guided by greed.
Yeah,
right? That's why they clearly offer
They're
them.
like, they have these gems. They're like,
These
well,
gems
no
are-
good. Well, the currency's only good in a place that accepts the currency.
Yeah, exactly.
Republic credits? Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real.
But yeah, so C escapes from the settlers, and then she bumps into Ezra after almost running it. She almost runs out of her air. Her filter almost runs out. She's about to die. Then she hears Ezra calling for anyone, basically sending out an SOS.
He's made camp somewhere, or he found a tent.
So it's just kind of like that. That was the point where I was like, wait, what's happening? But I also felt that because when she's there, she's at the edge of the forest. She's looking out into like nothingness, and you see the planet.
Desolation. Yeah.
I kind of felt like it. That was probably one of the scenes I would say. It was like it landed short. It didn't. I don't think it hit home as much as they wanted it to.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because there was no setup. It was a payoff without a setup. It was like there wasn't any reason for me to care that there's this huge otherworldly.
I think it was just a money shot per se. They were just trying to show. They're like, hey, we got.
And then they were like, we paid so much for this shot. We keep it.
I'm a Toydarian. My tricks don't work on me. Only money.
That one part of I think that is. I would agree that is the weakest part of the movie. That scene, because then all of a sudden then she just meets Ezra again in the tent. It's a little jarring how fast she jumps.
You see the tent, you're like, that was in his backpack?
Yeah,
There's 4 beds.
Your comment was even like, how many days have passed? Like how?
Yeah,
like how
no,
much?
I wasn't asking how
time
many
has
days.
passed?
In my head, I was thinking hours.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was like, what? Like, is it an automatic? Like,
Well,
tent?
clearly it wasn't his tent though, because it was someone else's fake.
I think it was somebody else's tent. Yeah.
I have one. Before we go, I have one prediction as to why that seems maybe a little jarring. I'm gonna guess, like you said, they might have filmed something and it didn't work out. Right? It just wasn't quite up to par. They cut it, and budget came into play. They didn't really have time for reshoots. They didn't have the money for reshoots, so they just they just decided, you know what, we can make it work.
My guess is pacing.
The pacing too. Yeah. That's actually
Like,
a big
how
one.
long can you walk in a jungle and keep us entertained?
Yeah, but like
because it was. I'm not saying it was bad slow, but like I enjoyed the pace of the movie. But yeah, I could see like maybe an extra scene after the settlers, and then another scene of her walking aimlessly in a forest. It turns into Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. I'm just saying, like,
Yes.
it turns into the parody of Lord of the Rings, where it's like, let's go walk to Mordor.
they're reunited in the tent. Ezra, his arm is like where he got shot it's black. It's getting bad. So he tells C that she's gonna need to amputate it.
That was so cool.
That's a cool scene.
That was so cool because, like,
Yeah, how cool. I mean, awful is that?
Very cool. I mean, awful.
oh, dude, the acting, the setup for that, like, that's a setup and payoff. Because, like, as they were talking about it, when he was like, I either lose my arm or I die, I was still like, wait, what?
How scared should we be? He is somewhere between not at all and entirely.
And then he starts taking a little knife out, and I'm like, no, he's not gonna. I thought maybe at first, like, no, she's just gonna take
2
something
for flesh,
out.
4 for bone.
He's like,
And then
I kept thinking, what's 5 for? My favorite.
what?
What does 5 do?
He did say there's
It's
5
1 to
levels.
5, yeah, there's
5
5
is a
levels.
laser gun. I'm assuming it was a laser cutter because it was a little smoke, right?
I'm assuming the final scene where he kills the girl, that was 5. That was full blast.
Full blast. lightsaber.
I thought it was. I really loved the Star Trekkiness of it. Like we're huge. I don't want to call us Trekkies because Star Wars and Star Trek are both amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah, and our knowledge is not as bottomless as some others. But
yeah.
Doesn't matter so long as you enjoy it.
But we've done our
we've watched the show.
We've paid our memberships, but we're not masterclass. But anyways, I love the Star Trekkiness of it in that basically he pulls out, here's an X-Acto knife, right? And then he explains, because the blade is like, it's like half of this.
But it's
right?
a laser cutter, right? Like
Doesn't,
you can hear
I know, but that's what I love about it. It's like, for all we know, that could have been, they could have gone to Home Depot, bought an X-Acto knife, painted it.
Oh yeah.
Color,
that's what you mean, yeah.
And then I just love that it was like 2 for flesh, 4 for bone. And then it's like, that's all we need to know. You know, like what I'm talking about is like in Star Trek, they're inside of the ship and they're like, whoa, we're getting shot at. And it's like, that's all we need to know.
Shields down.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. Instead of other movies might have like, if they had a bit more budget, to their detriment, they might have been like, here's the laser cutter. The shot is focused on
Ezra
Mando,
reacting.
his face,
yeah, because he's taken morphine or whatever he injects himself, and
but still
what
the shock of having to know that your arm is being lost.
Oh shit!
What?
Oh shit!
What I love about it is that he's explaining everything to C because he doesn't expect her to know what she's doing, and I like that she plays with it. No. She's playing to it, right? She's letting him explain, and she's like, at one point, she's like, finishes cutting the flesh. She's like, so 4 for bone? And he's like, oh yeah. And she knows what she's doing, and he's surgical. Like, he basically asked her, "You've done this before?" Because
I don't think she's done that before. Like, I think that is her first time using that blade, but she's saying she's seen worse.
She's seen worse, and to her, it's fine. Like, he freaks out more. Not because of the pain.
It's just knowing that it's happening.
It's knowing, and he's freaking out, and it's his right arm actually, and it's his fighting hand. No, what do you call it? His tool, his best tool, his best friend.
You'll put it up.
My primary weapon. Been with me my whole life. Ready to help. No job too gritty. No love too intimidating. Oh.
Sorry.
His acting, like we already mentioned, his acting's fantastic. I love the way he talks. He has very roundabout ways to say.
I enjoyed the way he talked. I just wasn't sure if I liked it. Like,
I
enjoyed listening to it, but I kept thinking like nobody else is talking like this.
No,
guy.
They plucked him right off of Western, right? He's a very colorful way.
He's the carbon copy, not in an insulting way, but he is a copy of what's the guy in Firefly? What's his name? The captain.
Oh, why am I not remembering this? Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, I was just waiting for him to say like, she's a real pistol. Yeah, Captain Malcolm Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talks like that. Like, we aim to misbehave.
So no more running. I aim to misbehave.
Like, this is something that he would say, but it was beautiful to listen to.
Done.
Just the whole time I was thinking like, because here's my point. Damon and him are both, let's say, privy. They're both privy to the rush.
Yeah.
Only one of them talks like Ezra does.
But also,
and the settlers were also in the rush. That guy, he doesn't talk like him either. Can we just imagine? Okay, here, it's a little. Sometimes for me, it's hard to tell how good an actor is.
Yeah.
So what I do sometimes is I just imagine Nicolas Cage playing the scene.
Hello.
I'm not saying Nicolas Cage is a bad actor. I'm just saying that imagine the Nicolas Cage version of that scene.
We've talked about this. He has a certain
tone. Je ne sais quoi. But you just picture it though, right?
Yeah.
Not the hand, not the arm. So, arm is amputated.
Mm-hmm. They're bonding at this point, though. Like,
they're best pals. Kind of in the beginning of the movie, they talk about the mercs, and when they really introduce them, at least conceptually, we're kind of expecting like a band of rogues, and we're expecting them to be really prepared to like kill anybody. That's the setup. I feel like the payoff is pretty good.
I just realized, because this is the second time I watched it, right? I realized that the mercs really remind me, the way they talk, the way they speak, remind me of...
the mercs from Genome? blue guys, remember?
Oh yeah, that's a good. That's a
look
great
a little
game,
bit
guys.
like
The way they talk also reminded me of Jabba the Hutt.
Ela coca adore si toca.
Oh, yeah, there was. I think there's a part where you actually do.
Jungle mighty Chewbacca, mighty Solo. Oh, 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 oh.
Again, how great was it when they they meet the leader of the mercenaries, right? They're around the camp, bit of a standoff. They're telling their story, and then the mercenary girl there turns on that radio.
That was sick.
And then it blasts the music right in their ears, in Ezra and C's ears, while the rest of them have a private conversation, right? Ooh, that's menacing. That's a great scene.
That was really cool. I thought that was really great.
That's they're dead.
It's a trap.
At that point,
because she said my dad or something, right?
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, she almost let it slip.
Yeah.
She almost. So, the problem they have going on here is Damon, the father who's now dead. He was really good at harvesting. The girl, unproven. We don't know what she can do. And Ezra, he's missing his partner.
I'm surprised none of them brought it up.
Did he have one arm?
None of the mercs were like, what the?
Well, I mean, maybe he's like, oh, he's left-handed.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
Okay, so C and Ezra go to the Queen's Lair or whatever they call it, right? It's a bunch of these egg things, and they're huge, right? Like a lot of money to be made here.
Yeah.
Ezra tries with his left hand a couple times.
Tries 2 of them, fails both.
Fails both, right? And then they're like, wait, the mercenaries are, wait a minute, you know how to
can't harvest worth a pit.
You know how to do this? It's a little difficult to carve weak-handed.
What you say? Sounded like you said you can't do this.
And then C gets in there.
She tries, and you think, you're like, she's gonna get it.
I really liked it because they really thwarted our expectations.
Whereas like,
really
she's got this. Oh.
Yeah, she fucks it up, which is fair. It's her first real attempt.
As far as we know, but yeah. And then...
They proceed to shove the mercenary into one of the holes and he dies. I mean, it made sense. It was a good bet because they already said that a dude lost their arm trying to harvest dry. It's really, man, they do a really good job of world building with the tiniest bit of information.
So then the other mercenaries come and they're like, what's happening? And Ezra tries to play it as like, oh, the guy got greedy seeing it, right? Again, greed comes into play. But then the mercenary girl notices his Achilles tendon got sliced. Something doesn't add up. So then she takes out her gun, right? And right as she's about to perhaps shoot, C takes that acid that they used to harvest, tosses it and throws it onto the meat. Acid plus the flesh. Boom.
Double kill.
They have a bit of a gunfight, and the only one left is the mercenary girl again, right? So they're in the woods.
Yeah.
And Ezra and C come up with a plan where C's gonna run distraction and start getting shot by the woman.
Yeah.
While C gets around,
somehow
flanking,
tackles
her down.
This 16-year-old girl tackles this professional mercenary in battle armor.
She's top heavy.
Gets her low.
Gets her low. You know,
she
tackle low. Ezra goes.
She manages to stab Ezra with a stick, and Ezra.
Was that a stick or?
I don't know.
I think it was her. I thought it was her gun. Kind of. I think she used it like a bayonet. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ezra uses what we assume is setting number 5.
He goes.
Yeah, just keep stabbing. I kept thinking, like, how deep is the play?
You call yourself a robot?
The amount of setup and payoff in that like 3-minute, 4-minute span is enormous. You know, you have like, there's a setup and payoff of what happens when you stick your arm into a dry harvest, right?
Yeah. Because you need to use your...
Because that's how they kill the one guy.
Yeah.
Right?
That mentions it right at the beginning of the movie. Yeah.
There's the setup and payoff of what happens if you spill the thing onto the meat.
The dad again lectures C early on that she almost spilled it. Yeah.
There's a setup and payoff with the knife that he uses.
Setting 5. Yeah. It's probably more.
And then there's a setup and payoff of the prisoner, which what happens is he finishes off the last past Merc with a rock.
Oh yeah.
He lets the others go. It kind of looks like I wasn't sure if
Do you
he
have a
was bowing
stand?
or something.
Yeah, no, I think. Do you have a standoff? I was like, my fight isn't with you.
Quien pierde es aquel que no ataca. Benji, voy a enseñarte cómo se ataca. Este es el fútbol soccer del franco canadiense.
Ezra, right? He got stabbed. He's bleeding out. Tells C, go, you gotta go. She needs to get in the ship and get out of here, right? Being selfless. And C runs back, and instead of just leaving, she grabs a medical pack, goes back to Ezra, and basically patches him up, hoists him up, and the two of them just get back on the ship. And next thing you know, they're going to the space station. They made it in time. C smiles. Movie ends. It's so simple. It's great. It's a great, like I said earlier, it's a great choice for a first film. There's a lot of world building without the need of explaining.
Yeah,
and the actual plot is very easy to understand.
Easy to understand with minimal explanation.
I do enjoy that this, and I'm not someone that needs happy endings per se, but I do like that this movie did have a bit of a
We don't know
happy.
that he lives, right? He could very well die.
Yeah, but I'm just gonna assume he lives. Like by the way that the movie sets it up, like you can go on world building for as far as you know, right? Like what happens in the sequel that's never gonna happen. But I think what's important here is that they chose to make him live. I think maybe they wrote it in that way, where the directors at any moment could have been like, you know what, he dies, or you know what, he lives. And I like that they picked it. He lives in this way. It's just nice to sometimes have a happy ending in these things, because you could easily made it the opposite. I mean, I think C would have still survived. She could have been the lone survivor, and that would have made for just as good of a movie. But I do like it when they.
Is that the first time she smiles at the end?
I think maybe she smiles a little when she's explaining her book to Ezra. Yeah. Right, when she's allowed to be herself. Yeah. Right, her skill sets, her demeanor is a product of her environment, but who she is clearly is someone creative, artistic, right?
There's this concept I'm trying to think. Just want to get the name right before.
It's not about camels again, is it?
Not camels this time.
Again, the skill we settled on is if Alien is 10.
Yeah.
And Tenant is a hypothetical 7. And not in my mind, but until we review it. Where does this fit?
8.
Respectable. For me, I would give this, I would say 8.5. I'm not quite ready to give it a 9.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a few things wrong with it still. Like the scene we talked about that it's just kind of out of place.
I wouldn't say this.
I would say the choreography of the fighting, like for example, when at the point where Ezra stabs the girl and she kind of stabs him, like it's hard to tell what's happening. Like you see a stick or something, like a bayonet go into him, but like how he
it's just how they cut it. It's easier if they just shoot him running in, reaction shot. Other way, shot, and then you never see him stab her because it's a lot easier if we don't.
It just have the sounds. There were parts of the battle scenes that felt a bit clumsy. It was hard to tell exactly who's alive, who's dead, who's where.
Right.
That's it. That was like
that's fair.
Yeah, I keep thinking about this sidebar. I keep thinking about. This feels kind of irrelevant. I don't know. So there's this. There's a philosopher. His name's Thomas Hobbes, right?
Yep.
And this isn't anything.
Mr. Hobbes.
This is an old idea now. He talks about the state of nature and humans, and how the state of nature is every man for himself. You know, the weak is meat that the strong do eat. What he talks about. He mostly talks about this sovereign called the Leviathan, which doesn't really apply here because there is no society here. But what he does talk about is social contracts, things that we sign all our lives without even realizing. It's the social contract written between Ezra number 2, between C and Ezra, between Ezra, C, and those townsfolk, or the settlers. It's the only reason that none of them kill each other. And I just thought it was really interesting that that even in this crazy place where a lot of times I would think like, why don't they just kill Ezra, take the girl, or why don't, why don't the mercenaries are totally not going to let these guys live, but like they're all still abiding to this social contract. And I'm not sure if that's like a feature that they left in where it's like, look, like the only thing running people here is greed, it's just gems, but still social contracts are in place. Even the loose social contract that Damon and Ezra had until Damon betrayed them.
Yeah.
Damon was the greediest one of everyone in the movie.
He dies first.
Right? Yeah, that's why he dies first. Christmas is almost coming, so maybe we'll watch something Christmassy. Christopher the Christmas Tree.
Christopher the Christmas Tree. Let us know if you want us to watch Christopher the Christmas Tree. The magic and splendor of Christopher and Hootie the Owl.
Woo-hoo.
It's very morbid.
It's kind of a sad movie.
Christopher wants to be this Christmas tree the entire time, and then he does, and he's
what
gonna
happens
die.
after you
He's
get
dead.
chopped down and become a Christmas.
Hootie the Owl is stuck there in the city, and he's gonna get eaten by a bunch of crows and pigeons.
Yeah. Anyways,
thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah.